My man,
What's up, man? How are you?
how you feeling, buddy?
Ah, it's cool. It's cool, man. I actually really cool. The past 24 hours, so I just bought me a car.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did. I did. I um I got the 21 Tesla Y.
Oh, you got a Tesla? Okay. You got to take me for a ride.
Let's go, man. It's pretty cool, man. I've been going back and forth. Like, I know I want something, didn't want nothing, but I got a couple things I want to do, and I need to be mobile, right? So I was like, all right, let's go with something. I've been doing some research, so pulled the trigger last night, and kind of excited, man, like a kid in a candy store. So
Dude. Okay, so what does the inside look like? Cuz I got a confession to make. Whenever I walk past a Tesla, I literally am like looking inside the windows and trying to see what it's like. It looks like a spaceship.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much. An iPad, back, not even back in the day. Now, like, if you're really into driving games, you get like the pedals and you get the steering wheel, you get your computer screen, right?
Yeah.
Now it's just that in the car. But no, it's real clean though. I actually got a buddy and down in Florida. He has one. Got to ride in his. Caught a couple of Ubers in him. I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. So found a blue one, black interior last night. Well, through CarMax and test drove it. I was like, this is actually pretty slick, man. And I said, forget it. Let's go. Pull the trigger, man.
I love it. I'm a huge fan of Teslas. There's a guy I work with that just bought the Cybertruck,
Oh,
and in that thing it looks so badass. Just when he drives in, and the front of it is like a trunk, and it like opens up by itself, and there's like this huge trunk space where the engine should be. So which one is, you said it's the Y? Which one is
yeah.
that?
So I guess the wide is like the middle ring. I think it retails probably around 40, 50K. But like I said, I got mine used, right? I just wanted to test it out and play with it a little bit. So it's the three is a smaller version, and then I think you get the I forgot what the larger one is, but right in between there you get like this small SUV looking, mid-size SUV looking car, and that's what I have, the wide. So
Oh,
um
I know which one that is. I love those. Okay, so how fast is it?
man, like we did a turn test drove it, right? So did a little like, pivot and go. The guy said, just press it. I mean, dude, you get to 55, 60 in no time. It takes off, right? The rumors are true, man. I think when you're talking about the speed and ability to get the speed, like I don't even have the performance one. I just got the long range, right? It's a solid performance wise. If you're a guy who's like, I want to feel the car like, pin me to the back, man. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I'm jealous because I've had like little bitty four-cylinder cars for so many years, just trying to, for gas mileage.
Oh
And
yeah.
man, sometimes it would be nice just to know that if you need to, you can just fucking hammer down,
Oh yeah.
and take off.
Oh yeah, yeah. And look, man, I'm in that group too, man. It's like I get the car for efficiency, for effectiveness, and don't get me wrong, right? I think you get a little bit of both with this, right? It's like I charge at my house, right? I got to get the supercharger plugged in, but you're talking about. I just got a supercharger. It cost me like $3, right, for like 200 some odd miles, and so I get my little efficiency piece, right, and I could plug it in anywhere and charge it, but I also get like a little bit of that excitement.
Hell yeah. What is this you said a supercharge. Is that like an adapter for your
Yes,
house to plug it in?
yeah, man. So they got the supercharger stations. Those are like just crazy fast, right? Get your battery up and charged. But then like at home you need about like a 220 plug, or you can get the wall charger, so you can get like about I think it's up to like 40 miles per hour, right? So you could charge it overnight and kind of get it up and running. I got the basic charge that comes with it right now because I just got it last night. So I probably get like 2 or 3 miles, per hour when I'm charging it. But it keeps the lights on, right? I'm not driving it that much. So there's no reason to like do a supercharge every day.
No, man, dude, you've got to take me for a ride.
Let's go.
I like
Let's go.
because I keep wanting. I've never even been inside one. Like I say, I'm like a I don't know what it is. Like I'm just glued to those things when I see them, and but I've never actually ridden in one. And so yeah, I can't. We got to go out.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah,
I
and
think you like it. Yeah.
now does it do this self driving? Can we go out and get drunk and it will it drive us home?
I hit it by mistake, and I was like, turn this shit off. Because I thought it was a cruise control, and I hit the button. It was like self driving mode. Like, no, I don't want that. I'm okay. Um, but I don't know, man. I see everybody doing it on the commercials, right? I see everybody kind of like the little videos on YouTube. I don't think I'm there yet. Cruise control is just fine for me, right?
Yeah, self driving would be a little. That'd be hard for me to. I mean, it sounds nice, but I don't know if I would trust it.
Yeah. That's it. Right now, right? I'm not there yet. Let me maybe honestly, maybe if it's like I was taking a direct trip from like, where we stay at to Chattanooga, right? Then I say, it's a straight shot, it's a little bit of curvy, but I'll take it. But like if I'm trying to like take a left, right, and get on the interstate, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna just stay with what I know. These two hands, right?
but it's coming though, right? I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff about that. I mean, all the companies are logging, as many miles and as many hours as they
Yeah.
possibly can, to satisfy the government requirement. So eventually,
Oh, it's gonna be there, man. Like, it was really cool. Like, I don't know, really cool, right? But a report came out. I don't know if it's been, I don't know how long it's been in the past couple months, right? They were talking about how, like, if Tesla, they're trying to get their approval so that you have all the self-driving cars. The functionality is there. Where's the possibility that someone who owns it, right, and at night while I'm sleeping, it can run as a taxi and make me money,
oh
right?
shit, I've never thought about that.
Exactly, right? So like it just goes on its own, like picks people from the airport, gives me a couple of Uber fares, comes back and say, "Hey, boss, I made you $200 today, right?"
Oh God, it's like having another teenager. So where the
Oh,
fuck have you been? You were supposed to
exactly,
be at home
right.
charging.
Exactly. Oh, oh man, fun stuff. But yeah, so cool thoughts, right? Coming around it, I think it's one of those like not if, but when it happens, right? I think at this point of our like evolution of human beings and freaking just technology, man. Honestly, it's awesome.
Uh, have you heard the? I was reading something that I guess Elon with Tesla was going. There was like a debate between like basically laser like lidar technology for self driving, and then the other one was I guess maybe more video centric with AI interpreting the video. Have you
Right.
heard anything about that, or do you know? Have you heard about that debate?
No, no, no. I haven't heard about that debate. What's going on, man? Is he saying one's better than the other, or is it more about like you have to merge the two? It's
I
probably
from what I understand about it, I think the lidar is a little easier right now with our current technology.
right.
And I could be butchering this, but I think Elon was wanting to go with more of a combination of lidar, but also the cameras and just basically training AI to like literally training AI to see the road and to see obstacles and hazards the same way we do. And
Right.
for a long time, everyone's like, no, that's impossible. You can't do it. And he's like, well, basically watch me.
Right.
And so I don't,
Yeah.
I think it's still under development, but, that's something that always fascinates me is the, it's cool to see the technology when it comes out, but it's even cooler to like peek behind the curtain and
Right.
see how are they actually doing this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No. No. It's interesting, man. We probably could. I know we went off a tangent, right? I took the conversation differently, but um, I think that's kind of where I'm at in my career. I've been doing a lot lately. Is this sounds really cool. I know we want to do this, but how do we jump that gap, right? Bridge that gap, and it's always interesting because like it is right. It's like okay, if we bring in this technology, right, I think a lot of people miss what it takes to support and run that technology. And really, really to make it feasible, what it's going to take, right? That, get to quantum computing and GPUs and all this other, deep dives on tech stuff and right, even the coding behind it, what is really happening. I think a lot of people, they see the warm and fuzzy, like, oh, it can do all this, but doesn't really about all these other boxes you got to check to say, okay, this is going to be viable, for day in day life, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I tell my clients, man, I say, hey, look, like we do a lot of work with Gen AI and, um, you know, bringing empathy to machines, right? And really and say, hey, look, in the end of the day, it's a huge math calculation that's just really, really good and has a lot more flexibility. Right? We talk about a lot of these technologies and really, and it's human logic accelerated, and then, just math calculations, right? And I try to get them to understand that that's what we're trying to perfect right now until we can get to what they call sentient, right? AI or technology, which hopefully that comes in like, after I'm, gone. We'll see.
Did now? Did you say bringing empathy to the machines, like literally, like teaching them through math how to relate to us better? Is that what that means?
Well, like, it's like, yeah, in basic terms, right? It's like, because in the end of the day, it's like, I'm trying to, a lot of the work I'm doing, right? How you bring technology to the forefront. And we as humans, right? Even me, right? I know I've taken a couple classes where it was like AI responses generated, right? Or it was like using the AI avatar and it really didn't connect, right? It's like I was missing something. And for me, it's all about that empathy, right? That you can get from the inflections of your eyes, your nose, right? Those nonverbal things. And even if I say a certain thing, a certain tone, you get it, right? AI doesn't get that at this moment, right? And so that's where you start to get to like that multimodal, right? You can hear like listen, hear, and see. So it can really start to like gather like, hey, this person may be sad. I should probably respond this way versus that way. And really, how do we get AI to get to that point, and what would it take to get to that point? Because that's where you start to really get into that. It's hard to determine AI from humans. Right.
Yes. Yeah. I had an experience like that a couple of nights ago. I was driving to work, and for a long time I've been thoroughly like freaked out about the idea or some of the negative implications that AI could have on us. And then I was driving to work, and I was trying to add an item to a to-do list on my iPhone, and my phone just kept fucking it up like over and over again. And I was like, you know what, forget it. And then I'm thinking, why am I so worried about
Right.
about AI taking over? It can't even add a simple item on my to-do list. I mean, that may not mean anything, but I just remember thinking like, okay, maybe I'm a little worried over nothing.
It's I call it the smartest 8-year-old I ever met. I mean, that it could tell you everything from who was the first president, right, to the calculation for Pythagorean theorem we learned in high school and college to, you know, give me exact understanding of like every episode of Jeffersons and Jetsons, right? Like the smartest 8-year-old you ever met, but the context is gone. Like it doesn't. There's like if you say like, "Hey, give me the Jets weather," right? And you're like, "Oh, Jets? Well, we have this type of jet, private jet." You're like, "No, no, the New York Jets." It's like, "Oh, okay." Like and so you have to like really guide it down this path. It knows exactly the information. It just doesn't. It doesn't know because it's like an 8-year-old. That's
So that
that's like only the it's like it's the smartest 8-year-old you ever met. Because it has all the knowledge, just no context or anything, and I think that's where we as humans have to like guide it. And that's where, I try to tell people like, if you know they knew and it just started, how would you speak with them? And that's how you're going to have to deal with it.
interesting. Uh, so okay, this is something else that fascinates slash like worries me. When do you think AI could become sentient? I mean, I've heard things as early as in a couple of years, but do you think it's that close?
It's tough, right? I think you have a lot of the foundation, but this is how I look at sentient, right? If we're talking about this concept, and everybody could talk about it differently. Right now, we're giving a lot of our technology the, how you want to say, boundaries to operate within, right? Hey, this is your mission in life. You're going to be an Alexa. And your job is to just give them basic information when they ask you, right? You're going to be an autonomous vehicle, right? And your job is to do this. It's when, to me, two things happen. Either the technology can start to say, this is my goal in life, and or it starts to tell you how you want to say it and implement almost like the iRobot, right? Hey, you told me to protect you, and these are my laws. Well, guess what? Best of my laws, this is how I'm going to protect you and save you, right? Without your input. And I think to me, those are the two pieces that I always be fearful of. Not fearful, but like to me, that's what sentient, in my opinion, right, is where we're starting to start worrying about it, right? It's like who told the AI to do this? Oh, I just determined it on my own. Okay, that's not how you save me, or that's not how you protect me as a human. Yeah, you gave me these laws, but I looked at it, I noticed you did all this other stupid. So rather than consult you, I'm just going to do it on my own. Right? Like, to me, that's like when you start to get into that sentient, and it really starts to get scary. Do I think we're there yet? I think people can build systems that mimic it. I don't know if AI is there on its own, right? Maybe in somebody's little shop somewhere. And I'm posting it. This is 2025 in January, right? So if you look at this in 15 years, like, oh, you're still being talking about, like, no, we're gonna time date stamp this one. Um, I think we're way off from that. Like, I think you're always gonna have bad actors, right? You're always gonna have people who can build stuff to make it seem like it, but to fully act on its own, I think we're a little ways away from it, right? That's a lot of processing power that a lot of organizations really won't pony up the money for, because it costs benefit ratio. Then also, if you start building that, then why? You know, long winded, but that's my answer.
No, I love that answer, and actually that makes me it reminds me of something else I read, is that supposedly a lot of these companies, some of the like AI startups, and also some of the bigger companies, is it true that they're investing heavily into like power plants and like new technology? Are like I've heard they're basically buying up tons of real estate and tons of
Oh yeah.
basically ways to produce power, because they know that for AI to really reach its full potential, it's going to need a way better power grid.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah. No, man, you have to honestly. Like, I think one of the biggest misconceptions maybe a lot of people have, they see the AI, right? They see all this really cool things you can do, but they don't get what you need, the like that foundational pillar to make this all work, right? Electricity, huge, right? It's going to suck up tons of electricity, right? And then the systems, those, I know people like to talk about them like mainframes, those old computer, big server forms. If you don't have that, you don't have the processing capability, right? You're talking about a Mixtral or a Llama 3 model. These things have like trading on 8 some billion, points of data, right? They're computing tons of information every second, right? When you ask it a question, if you don't have the GPUs and the system, now you scale that, right? You're talking about all these startups, all these big Fortune 500 companies, like somebody has to build that infrastructure. And yeah, I think Northern Virginia is one of the best, shows of that. I don't know if anybody familiar with the area, like, the DC, Northern Virginia area. You go up there and there's just server farm after server from all the big companies, right? That's supporting a lot of this stuff, even the no names up there. Because if you don't have that, like, there is no infrastructure to run this stuff. And wait till quantum computing gets out there, right? That's going to be even more expansive, right? To like support it. So I'm actually surprised, and I think Atlanta's getting there, but they don't have more, right? Of them out there, or a big area. I know it's a big, you know, um, shipping lane, but that's a huge industry right now, growing big time, especially in the PE world, private equity.
So we know what to attack. When AI takes over, we go for the server farms.
That's if they don't dispatch the police and the military to protect it first, because the threat, man.
Uh,
Exactly.
uh,
You're thinking it because we know it.
what does AI look like right now? I mean, because you're in that world,
Yeah.
like the like the boots on the ground. What is AI doing for companies right now, or what are companies hoping that AI can do for them?
You know, I think if we to talk on this topic, we probably need to break it down in like 3 or 4 different types, right? And the reason why I say that is because I like to remind people like we've had AI for a while, right? You talk about the Doppler radars, which forecasting your weather, right? You're talking about simple prediction analytics, simple machine learning stuff that's safely been around for a while, right? And so I say if we look at traditional AI, I guess you want to call it that, your machine learning, your deep learning, some of your prediction stuff, we've been doing that for a while, and I don't think that changes, right? What I see now is, I think Gen AI, it's funny to say, 2 years ago with OpenAI, it kind of exploded, but that's almost becoming, like, okay, yeah, we got that. But I don't think a lot of companies really harness that piece yet. And a lot of people are trying to do this really big thing. Like Gen AI is a small piece in that cogwheel of the AI we're already doing. But where I see people going now, and it's really hot topic, is agentic AI, right? And to keep it simple, it's taking all those pieces, the prediction capability, the automation, it's taking the Gen AI, and when you put that all together, it's able to execute and do tasks for you that before, for instance, the easy one is like language translation, right? Let's say you wanted to translate a document. Human wise, I go to this service, doesn't work, go to this service, that doesn't work, go to this service, right? We starting to get to the agentic and starting to get to agents. Now, instead of me manually have to do that, I can say, hey, go translate this document. If this doesn't work, you can go here and try this one, right? It can really start executing this task on for me, and behind the scenes, just kind of get my replies back, right? So I see a lot of people start, how do I integrate that whole system with Gen AI, with automation, with agentic AI, which is a little bit more than automation, some nuance to it, and a predictive piece, right? And so what I've worked with clients is saying, like, okay, hey, look, I get you want the pie in the sky, but let's do building blocks. Because either, hey, if you already have it, we can start there. If you don't have it, we need to kind of build your system so that you can scale it as more AI comes in, it comes in. I think I answered a lot. I don't know if I answered specifically what you asked. Does that help kind of guide the conversation?
Yeah, it does, and it raises about 15 more questions.
It's about right. That's the thing, man. It's a really interesting but complicated subject, right? Like for instance, like the police department, right? People don't know me and Rusty. Used to work in that field back in the day together, right? Um, something as simple as we remember our reports, right? We have to do the 17s every freaking shift, right? And I discussed with a client before that was actually a large police department, and the concept was like, hey, like, what if you had AI, right? And this is generative AI, right? Some little fact checking to check the reports before officer hits send, right? So it's almost like a sergeant over your shoulder. That's what I called it, right? Right, because we send it off, the sergeant look at it like, oh, this is crap. Redo it over, right?
Check your narrative.
Exactly. Right? Something just that simple, but now that it was taking 2-3 weeks for our reports to get done in one night because you have this AI type additive put on it, right? And so it's stuff like nature that I'm seeing, like, how do we start with those smallest tips? And now, because you have that in place, now we can put AI on the whole thing and do some really cool analytics and some prediction modeling, and we can like do some staffing mechanisms because we have all the right data in the right place. So, I always say, what question are you trying to answer? What were you trying to solve? And let's start there, right? This is why I like to kind of guide people in that initial discussion, man.
Okay, so you said Gen Tech is more like AI agents. Am I getting that right?
So AI agents, like, there's this, it's, how you want to say, they call it agentic AI, right? If you look at like AI agents is, that's one term for it. Right now, everybody using the word called agentic AI, right? And it's really, I'm trying to keep it simple for the audience, right? It's really when I take, how you want to say, if I need to do a task, right? Instead of me going and doing the task myself, I can query my system, right? Like if you have a search bar, like, hey, process my tax returns for 2023, right? Or 20, whatever it may be. They say, okay, check, I'll go do that. And it goes log to my tax system, pulls my last tax return, goes, finds all my W-2s and everything and all the corresponding documents, make sure that the right information, it uploads into, my tax system. And now I have to just go in, and then I can say, oh yeah, that looks right. Go ahead and process it, in the processor, right? So all those extra tasks of it reaching out, set up the systems, doing that, that's that agentic AI piece where it takes my information or what I told it to do, and it makes a decision, or it execute these skills, right? So that way the task could be done, right? It's probably the easy way to look at it. When you talk about agentic AI, a little bit added piece is when you add AI in that system in the middle. So now it's just not going to execute the task. What if that is blocked, right? And now I have a capability center where it can default to another one. It can make a decision for me. They say, hey, look, we weren't able to log into that one because that system down to no longer there. We're going to go in this system. We're going to do this. It's still kind of following those tasks, right? So it almost has a human-centric decision-making behind it versus me kind of constantly telling every single step in the process. Long-winded to say it's a really cool additive to what we're doing now to kind of really increase productivity, right, of the workforce. That's what you're doing at the end of the day.
So would those be the kind of agents that I've heard of that could eventually replace remote workers?
It's tough, right? Because I think like automation is when we talk about like automation and replacing things, right? I think you have to dissect it into the type of work, right? So when you talk about like traditional automation, a lot of this task based, that's really like labor intensive, right? So a lot of that kind of work's kind of been automated, especially since like 2017. Over the past couple of years, the government does a lot of it, mail processing, and some other tasks. A lot of companies do it, right? Even when you file a claim online, right? There's nobody there. It's like an automation that takes it and it scans it and it puts it in the right fields. And, that used to be humans, right? But I think what happened is now with Gen AI, you get into the knowledge workers, right? The people who actually have to think and create. And I think we're still a ways off because one, it's not just a plug and play like it was with traditional automation. That was very like task oriented. We knew exactly the logic. If this, then that. Here you start to get into like a lot of what ifs and a lot of fuzzy area, right? And so I think now, like, yes, I think eventually get to a point to where like one worker becomes five, but there's just not a technology issue. There's a skill issue that you got to train people up on. And that's where a lot of companies starting to focus on like, okay, do we have the workforce of the future to use when we're bringing them? And what are we bringing them? We're bringing the capability to, instead of me doing, 4 cases a day, I could do 10. Why can I do 10? Because I have generative AI automation, agentic agents helping me in the background. Work that I used to have to go pull myself from records, now it just does it for me, right? And so that's where you start to get a lot of this, how you want to say, productivity, right, across the workforce. So
So
yeah, but it's still a ways off, in my opinion. We got to train some more.
no, that makes sense. So then if the AI eventually makes one person like 5 times more productive, does that mean that the workforce is cut by 80%?
I don't think so, right? I think it's easy to say yes, right? I think it's easy to say yes, but if I look at this holistically, one of my things was they were like, hey, we're going to cut our workforce by 20%, right? But what happens if that company's not filling 20% of those positions anyway, right? So they were already doing that same type of work, right, with the less staffing, right? Then you have another one where it's like, well, and I think the government is a huge showcase of this, where it's like the level of increasing work every year outpaces demand, right? We see it, when we worked in public service, right? There was never a shortage of work you had to do, and there was always an increase of work you needed to do, right?
Yeah.
And so like, are there some, I'm not going to say yes or no. Are there some situations where there's a workforce reduction for some reason? Yes. Right. It's just the nature of the beast. It's business end of the day. But I think totality, would you start saying how many people, like I'm a CPA, And so you almost get to a point where you have to have automation in the CPA field because a lot of people don't want to be accountants anymore. Right. So it's not that I don't have a lack of work. It's not that I don't have a lack of people. It's that like, I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be something cool, like an engineer. I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be something cool, like a content creator. Right. So now I have less people want to be accountants. Right. And so they're like, okay, what do? You can't force people into that field. Right. So I have to automate it to make it better. Right. So I think you get into an influx of business where it's like, you have that issue going on where it's like, hey, look, I can't even get the people to come in. Right. And in the field where I can't get people to come in, they won't come work for my company. Right. And then you start saying, okay, well, hey, I can get the people in, I can do this, but then you get to a point to where like, what's the return on investment? Right. So you got to say, okay, do I raise prices and make my employee, my customers mad? So like, I think businesses have like a couple different levers they need to like look at before they can say, hey, we're just gonna kill the workforce. And I always try to tell people like, it's a tough decision, right? When it comes to workforce, but in the day you want to increase productivity. That's what it comes down to, right? And hopefully, I try to focus on workforce happiness, right? It's always about like, if I could take that mundane off your plate, are you more enjoyable at your job, right? And how do we can make that better for you?
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So then, like you say, the repetitive tasks that drive everyone crazy
Right.
get done by AI, and then we focus on. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you, I know that not that I'm super well versed with the economy, but inflation is like a hot topic or a hot button issue right now.
Right.
Isn't it that technically the more efficient things are, like technology by its nature is supposed to be deflationary? Is that true?
I don't know if it's deflationary, man. That's a good question. I don't think I've ever looked at it. I've looked at it, but haven't looked at it really in depth in that lens. You know, when I look at inflation and deflation, whatever it may be, I look at it's never one thing. It's like five, 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 all these 5 and 10% that get to like this bigger whole. And I find it funny. It's like, oh yeah, this person's the reason why this happened. I'm like, no, like not really. Right? Could it be a huge factor? Yes, I agree. I think, but I think it's always situation dependent. Um, I will say that the more inflation you have, depending on where it's shown up at, right? Is it, cost of goods in the store, or is it like, salaries and pensions, right? Depending on where side it is, it technology does either, increase or decrease, right? Because it becomes technology expensive, right? And so, like I always tell people this, I say, look, if you keep increasing wages, yes, I'm going to bring in tech. Simple as that, right? But right, vice versa is opposite. If you keep certain things, I won't say low cost or reasonably priced, then technology is too expensive to do it, right? So I always look at it from that context and look at the inflation, deflation, like where is it happening, where is it coming from? Then yeah, tech is probably going to be involved in that, and you may have some impact to the economy, man. But it's tough, man. I think we narrow it down, then maybe we can probably look at that one or two or three, situations, see like how much did tech play into that?
Now that makes sense. What do you think? Like, I mean, we're in right now. It's January 25. Like, what are your thoughts over the next couple of years? Are you hopeful with where the economy could be headed, or is it just too soon to say?
It's tough, man. To me, the economy is always built on human trust. It's weird to say, right? But one of my best stock tips, people like, hey, you're a CB accountant, like how you do this? I said, I invest in, I do the Warren Buffett strategy. We're in the S&P 500. Keep it simple, right? Index fund and then mirrors it. Well, you're not getting the best rewards, right? I say, hey, look, that mirrors two of, America's, biggest trackers of the economy that's built on trust. So if those go to, excuse my language, crap, our whole economy is crap, right? Because it's all built on trust. Do I think positively over the next couple of years? Yes, I think we have to do some realignment on what does success look like, for ourselves and the economy. one of my biggest things right now, I try to tell people, I say, hey, look, AI, all that tech is going to happen, is going to come, just like how you're going to play in it, right? If you're on the tech side, and you're probably a content creator or something that's really on those two extremes, like either you're very person focused, hair, nails, content, something that's really emotional or technical, or like, hey, wants to deal with more the human people, or if you're on a huge tech side, riding the wave, I think you're going to be successful. You're going to love the next couple of years, right? But I think if you're in that middle and you're just trying to, and this is the tough part for America, the middle class, that little grind in, grind out, depending on your situation, you may not like the next couple of years, right? But I think if you're on those two edges of it, it may be pretty fruitful for you, honestly.
Mm. Yeah, it's so tough. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
well, something I always try and think of, because like, it's easy to get worried about things, or it's easy to get excited about things, but the truth is, no matter what the economy looks like, there's going to be winners and losers, just based on mindset. I mean, the economy could go to crap, but there's going to be people that still win, because they
Oh yeah.
have the right mindset, and it may not look, they may have to adjust course, or
Yes.
change tactics, but certain people are going to win. Like, what's that saying? Pessimists are normally right, and optimists are
Right.
normally successful.
You're right. It's
That
like
that's one of my favorite sayings.
oh man, it's interesting, man, because like, I'm fortunate. I've met tons of people in my career, right? Over my career, through my career, still now, and it's always interesting. It's always those that say, what, in 5, 10 years, that's what success looks like for me, and they just execute it. Whether it's a bad economy, whether it's a good economy, no matter what's happening, those people always seem to be like right where they need to be, right? I'm not saying they're gonna be 100% like, oh my God, but like when they look back, they're like, you know what, I did that, like I made it, right, and it worked out. And that's what I always try to tell people, right? I was like, don't look at me, don't look at Rusty, don't look at anybody else for success. Like, if you had to go 5 years forward, what does that look like for you? You know, and it could be something simple, it could be something big, but as long as you have that, I think that pessimist optimist statement's always going to be right, man.
I love that. I want to actually delve a little bit into what made you you, because you are like one of the most inspirational people I've ever met, and I've always been, I don't even know a ton about like your background, and uh and sort of what gave you your killer mindset, because you're one of the people that I'm like, oh yeah. Well, I call you Royale with cheese. I guess everyone probably knows you as Chuck, but we so don't get confused if you hear me say Royale with cheese.
Let's
But
go.
I know you grew up in New Orleans,
Yeah,
New
there you go,
Orleans,
man.
because
Good
I
food,
mean,
good people.
yes. Well, remember your wedding, man? That's one of the funnest trips I've had in ever period. I love the people, love the city, the experience. Man, that was so much fun. But yeah, so you grew up there. What was it like?
It's interesting, man. I'm fortunate, right? 80s, 90s. Um, um, Grew up in New Orleans in the city. It's a different life and time period, right? I always tell people is I growing up, like we always ate at corner stores, right? That's where I got all my food from, right? And so it was nothing I remember, pop in, I'll get my Chinese food from the corner stores. You kind of knew everyone, everybody knew you, right? I would say it was like 3 degrees of separation in New Orleans, right? I never forget, I was hanging out somewhere, and then somebody's like, "Oh yeah, you little Charles Royal." I'm like, "That's my dad, right?" Like, I was far from home, right? It was honestly, it was a really cool time, and I learned a lot, man, from just having. I was fortunate in the 80s and 90s. I think that time frame we had a lot more freedom than kids have today, right? And so what I mean by that is more about like I remember catching the bus, growing up, and 5th grade, 6th grade, you catch the bus halfway around across the city, and everybody was doing it, right? So you had a lot more freedom. Um, the food, man, became part of my personality. I loved it. Actually wanted to be a chef at one point. Pivoted to accounting, but it was one of those cities where I didn't realize how different and special it was till I left. Right, simple as getting off of Mardi Gras or jambalaya and gumbo, and when you travel around the U.S., you realize how much, how you want to say, I don't want to say brother love because that's Philly, but like just how much togetherness and just good time people want to have with the white, black, Hispanic, whatever. We're just hanging out, we have a good time, food, come on, hang by, right? And I think that made me who I am partially as a person, right? I've always kind of carried that New Orleans as spirit of like, I don't care who you are, we're gonna hang out and have a good time, right? And I just loved it, honestly, man. And it kind of, I think living in a city is a little bit different because you see a lot more stuff and a lot exposed to a lot more, right? The good and the bad, and so for that, I was able to see a lot more and understand life differently than other people who made and have that kind of situation, right? So, but loved it, man. From end to end, loved it.
No, there's something special about that city. There really is. I mean, I felt it when I've been there a couple of times, but for your wedding, it was probably the most time I'd spent really getting to hang out downtown and stuff. And you're right. There's just a fun,
Right, yeah.
welcoming atmosphere. It's just a great feel to it.
Oh yeah,
So
man.
what took you away from the city?
Yeah, no, man. I think high school, right? I'll say, okay, I go to college, but I really want to go to Marine Corps. Right? My pops in the Marine Corps. I never forget junior year. I signed up like 10 days after my junior year, and kind of was going on that path. And I said, I'm gonna do the college too at the same time. And I was fortunate, like growing up. Unlike some people who from New Orleans, right? Typically, when you're from New Orleans, you like that's your bucket, man. You don't touch it. I think I was fortunate. I had aunties, and uncles who were like, in the military, cousins who were in the military, traveled. So I got to see them, right? I got to go visit Chicago to see my nanny numerous times. So I had family outside of New Orleans. I was like, I know what I want is probably outside this city, right? And so, early on, signed up for the Marine Corps. Boom, checked one box. Then I did a semester in college after I graduated, and I realized, like, school's not for me. And then actually, let me see, just so I went to boot camp. I graduated boot camp August of 2020, 2001. And literally 2-3 weeks later, you're talking about 9/11,
Oh,
right?
what timing?
Exactly, right? You're like, okay, like, all right. And what the craziest thing is, like, I was actually supposed to be an aircraft tech. I was going to work on the airplanes at first, and then I made a decision to switch to infantry. Let's say I want to do that, right? And really cool. I love infantry to death, but it's different. And then 9/11 happens, right? A couple weeks after I graduated boot camp, right? And but yeah, no, man. And actually, that was probably 2003 after 9/11 when we went to Iraq, right? And that kind of really started the ball, right? Before then, I was kind of working out and in jobs, just trying to figure out life, honestly. Any guys around 18, 19, and then end up being in Iraq in 2003, which was definitely life changing. And honestly, man, you ask like, hey, how did you get to Hugh? And honestly, it was those different pieces, learning about growing up in the city, going to the Marine Corps, which was life changing, going to Iraq in '03 and then becoming a cop, honestly, man, like those four pieces helped shape a lot of my story and kind of like who I am today, honestly, right? It helped me step into who I want to be. And one of the biggest things, like, not to be morbid, but you go to a war zone, the guy you see at breakfast and lunch may not be there at dinner, right?
Mm.
The guy you hooping with and taking a shower with may not be there, right? And once you experience that and you see, this was 2003, man. Iraq was a true third world country, man. You see people begging, and it just switched a light to be like, you know what? I really need to take full advantage of what I have in my life, honestly, man. And that's kind of been the theme and really the fast forward, the gas on the to the floor since then, brother.
But what stands out to me about that is maybe it's just something you're born with, because you talk about your experiences and going to Iraq and seeing the conditions there, but it's the way that you specifically interpreted it, because you said, wow, I've got to take full advantage of the opportunities I do have. And I'm sure different personalities or different people with different mindsets just might have got fucking depressed over that. But so then what do you think were you raised with that mindset? Did you see people around you that you sort of gleaned that from? How did you get to that point where you interpret those things in a positive light to fuel your fire?
Yeah. First, I think I'm fortunate. I have a very reflective personality, right? So what I mean by that is, while it took me a while to hone it for myself, it's easy for me to look at somebody else's life and reflect on opportunities, mistakes, right? Not saying that they're making an opportunity mistake, but like if I was put myself in that, like how would I react, right? How would that look like? And then like I was fortunate, man. I always give hats off to my parents and my grandparents, right? My parents were hustlers, entrepreneurs, man, since I known them, right? I remember in the 80s, they used to pick up the wood sticks, right, that you get on the signs we used to vote, right? They'd be like, hey, you can pick all this. They used to get those and create like boxes out of them, jewelry boxes, and sell them at the flea market, right?
Oh,
My mom used to have her own nail shop doing nails in here. My dad used to run his own stuff, right? Not when they got older, it kind of changed, evolved, right? Became more workers, but I always saw them take those opportunities. I was like, you know what? That's the energy I need to have in my life, right? And then, I even see my grandmother growing up, right? She's one of the first Black nurses in New Orleans, and she has houses and businesses and just have a good life. And I always saw them take advantage and didn't complain a lot, right? It was like, hey, look, if I got this, I'm going for it, right? And seeing that growing up, I I think I took on that, like that show, right? Of like, I want this to be part of my life. And so every time, and am I saying I'm taking the best advantage? No, right? But I'm going to take some kind of advantage and make it work for me, right? And I've always kind of like, even when I felt like I was losing it, I always try to tune back in, right? Like, nah, Chuck, like, I know you said da, but guess what? You may not be here again, right? I remember when I left Atlanta, I moved to DC, my motto for the first couple of years was, there are no second chances, right? You may see the person, like, for instance, easy one is, let's say, I'll get the chance and I see you in person, right? I may see you again, but I can never replace that first chance of like, well, hey, how's it going, Rusty, man? Great to meet you, right? Now, let's say it's the second time around, I'm like, well, why didn't you come see me the first time, right? So I took on this mindset of like, there are no second chances in life. I may see you a second time, or it may come up a second time, but the first chance. So I always try to just jump on that and just take it, man. And honestly, I'm surprised of where it's taken me, honestly, in my life and career, and I had no complaints so far. But
oh.
I let people know, man, it's not for the weak.
No, well, I'm not surprised at all because, man, I met you, God, I guess it was 2007. And yeah, it's a long time ago. And I just remember we hit it off like immediately. I feel like I don't know if reincarnation is real or something, but I just felt like just immediately connected to you. I can't explain it. And I just remember we would talk and we were, in a unique environment at work.
Oh yeah,
And I don't know if you were already in school at that point or if around that time you made that decision, but I just remember at what it, you just had this focus like, hey, this is fine for where I'm at is fine for now, but
yeah,
it's not enough. It's not okay. And you would come to work with a backpack full of books and and a computer and it just whatever little time you had here and there. And we were on nights and I remember you didn't sleep much during the day
all
because
right.
you had homework. And I was just like, man, I just always admired just like your grind, just your mindset, the way you're able to push through. And I was like, fuck, it just always inspired me. So what you've gotten to today does not surprise me at all.
Oh man, whew, thank you.
At
Oh man,
all.
you brought back some memories, man. But yeah, not yourself, man. Like honestly, like one of the most important things just for everybody out there, right, is have good people like Rusty on your side, right? No judgment, no nothing, just honest conversation. And honestly, I don't think I could have got through a lot of that. As you know, Rusty, like your story, right? It's sometimes you're lonely on that journey, like right. And to sit there and say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna keep pushing day in and day out. Like my hat's off to anybody, man. Like I said, I love you to death, man. I know tons of things you've done. And I'm like, all right, cool. Rusty's doing it. I'm doing it. Let's go, man. Um, but yeah, nah, man, it's been an eye opening. I don't think I would change anything because you don't get the same results, you know.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Talk to me about, do you have a morning routine, or do you like how do you keep your mind focused? You know what I'm saying, to keep yourself motivated and to keep yourself on track. Is it a morning routine? Do you have a list of things you read every day? Like, get
Uh,
bring me inside your world.
It evolves, man. It evolves. This is scary. Um, so I'll tell you I have a routine for where I'm at in life, right? I know some people like, hey, if you could do something for 30, 40 years one way, I love it. I think I do have a general rules that I have on my morning and my sleep. And I'll tell you how this looks over my life, right? So I always like to be up an hour before everybody because that's just me time, right? And I can choose that how right now, I use that at least 30 to 45 minutes in the gym every morning, right? So about 6 to 7 or 5:30 to 6:30. Then it's like, almost, liter lemon water, stretching, meditation, maybe read a little bit. And then that's about 7, give or take, how I'm doing the day. And then it's like, okay, I like to prep my wife stuff for work. So I prep her like juices. We're doing a lot of juicing now, and I make these ginger shots. And I take out the dog, right? And then I usually kick off the day probably about 8 o'clock for work, different things. And then my night routine, the one I try to stick to that works for me the best, is probably about an hour before I go to sleep is my wind down time, right? That's shower, books, stretching, just kind of relaxing my body until I go to sleep. Now, how's that look over the years? It's always changed, man. I have to adjust. I remember when we was, back in the day, I was really big on school. So my morning and sleep routines revolved around school, right? That's when I did majority of my studying or my critical thinking work in the morning. When I moved to DC, I was working on my CPA then. And so my night and morning routine revolved around that, how I studied, broke things down. And I used to have certain study sessions in the morning and certain ones at night. But, I always keep, for me to stay focused, I have to have my hour to myself in the morning. That kind of grounds me, gets me ready. And then my hour before I go to sleep. And, for my teams, I do a thing called the way we work, right? What are the 3 or 4 things that you need to be 100% you, right? And so I practice my teams with this. And so, for instance, I always tell them, say, hey, look, after 5 or 6 p.m. if I'm working all day, I'm terrible at critical thinking. Don't look for me, right? I need my 7 hours of sleep. I'm getting older, right? I used to sleep nothing in the 20s. I need my 7 to sleep. And then I got to work out at least 4 or 5 times a week. I said, if we can do those 3 things, right? I'm going to give you 100% of me. And so that's what I probably try to focus on, especially when I'm doing my teams and stuff of that nature. But my routine, hour before sleep, hour when I wake up, hour before sleep, work out daily, and then try to get my 7 hours of sleep, man. And, I'm typically firing on all cylinders upstairs. Typically. Yeah. And that's how I kind of break it down, man. I know this is loose, but I always tell people, like, it depends on you, right? For me, I need 7 hours of sleep. I've got to work out, something about that energy, and then wind down so I can really truly sleep. It's big for me, boss.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I work. I'm on nights right now, and so I don't even know what day it is, or you remember how that
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
And so I get to like this morning. I didn't see your text until I went to bed at 10 last night and woke up at 10 this morning, and
Oh, yeah.
I slept like I was dead.
Oh, yeah. Well, right. That's about right. I got a question for you, man. Like, you've done a lot, right? You lived in different places. One of my biggest things is, like, I always like to be a mentor for others, right? What is the messaging, right, to 20-year-old Rusty?
Oh, oh God, that's a good question. That you got me on that one, because I literally was thinking like I want to ask him something like that. That's a really good question, because 20-year-old Rusty was so stubborn, like so smart and so dumb at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
agreed.
don't even know. I don't even know what I could, if I could go back in time and talk to myself, I would probably just get frustrated and go back to the future. I'd be like, you were so stupid, because I just,
Oh,
I didn't, because like you were talking about how you would look around and, you know, you were sort of like empathetic and you could learn from those around you and you could imagine yourself in their shoes and sort of learn from that. And genuinely, I've always been that same way. I've always wanted to learn the easy way from those around me, but there's just something, I don't know what it is, but I just continue to learn the hard way on things. And I
hey,
and so I think probably my advice to myself is just to fucking go for it. Figure out where fear is influencing your decisions, whether on a big scale or a small scale, and face that fear. Like,
yeah,
be brave enough to face that fear, and just and also take that fear as honestly sort of like a signpost. Hey, if I'm scared to death of this, maybe I should be doing it,
yeah, I like it. I like,
and just sort of go for that. And that would be, that'd probably be my biggest advice, because like I was so, I was so stubborn. I just thought I had everything, figured out. And of course I didn't.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know how it goes. And so
Oh yeah,
that probably, because that's what I'm learning now. It's like, it, it feels like life can sort of be reduced down to choosing love or choosing fear. And I know that sounds,
oh,
that sounds woo woo, or that, I don't know how that sounds, but I mean, really, it's like love or fear, because fear is anger and resentment and
right,
scarcity and all those things, and love is like vulnerability and bravery and actually going after something, even though it fucking terrifies you. And so that's probably would be, but that'd be my advice to my 20-year-old self. What about
yeah.
you?
Oh man, for me, honestly, it comes down to focus. Focus. Like, it's interesting. I'm less risky now, and it's a host of reasons why than I was early, in my life. But I was too unfocused to make a success of anything,
Oh.
right? And when we met, right, is when my focus actually started settling in, and not that I couldn't put the work in. I just had too many verticals I was trying to work on, right? You're trying to run this business, us security, and you got this going. You have all of these things going. And I tell people, I say, I love the enthusiasm. You having 5 or 6 things going on. Love it. Awesome. Give me one, get that to such a level that it can start pouring over into the others. And this could look different ways, right? If you're running a business, like I have a friend of mine who started a cleaning company, and she's gotten it big enough to where now she can hire other people, right? And now she can hire other people, and they start doing all her work for her. She can make a decent profit off of it. Now she can go to another business, right? Because it's operating on its own, but you can't start that business and run a trucking company, right? And so that's where I'm at. And I would tell myself back in the day, I was like, give me one and just go all in, right? And that's honestly, once I did that, when we met around that time, 07, 06, 08, somewhere around there, things took off. I mean, just right. And I was like, what if I did that 5 years earlier? Yeah, right. So
No,
that's
that's
kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at, man. And that's what I'll go back and tell myself. And actually, I got a piece of advice from my brother and his wife, who was like, man, we love you, do a lot of stuff, but just give me one thing, just focus. And once I clicked, I was like, okay, this makes sense.
oh, that
This,
is super
right.
good advice.
Yeah.
Too many verticals. God, that sounds so, like, so professional. But I know what you mean.
Right.
You're trying to climb too many mountains at one time. And God, I'm gonna take that, because I need that advice too. Because even with this podcast, I found that, because I don't know anything about it, and I want to grow it, and so I find myself, the recording episodes is so much fun. Talking to people is so much fun. And then I'm like, well, how do I put it out there? And so I find myself trying to learn all these, 5 different platforms.
Right,
And
right.
I'm like, maybe I should probably just focus on just one or two, like in like what you're saying, and really, because I don't have unlimited time to work on this, and so that's good advice. Like focus on one thing, and then once that reaches a certain level, it spills over into other things. Oh, you blew my mind. Cheers.
Hey, let's go, man. Let's go. Let's go. But yeah, no, man, that's kind of been my thing, right? I'm at a point in my life, and I was talking to the missus, and talk to you about it too, right? It's like, what is next? And right, for me, it's all about honestly mentoring, and not mentoring in a traditional sense, right? It's how can I get what I know to others that hopefully help them, right? And really start to maximize fulfillment, not just in myself, but for others, right? That's coming along that journey. Um, man, that's kind of one of my things. So I'm having fun with it, man. I know you're having fun with the podcast and the creative stuff, man. I'll let you have it. I'm a simple person.
No, I really, what's funny is that I was actually talking about you in an episode. I do these episodes because I try to put something out every week. And so I'm not able to coordinate that many interviews. And so I end up doing solo episodes. This
Gotcha.
sounds ridiculous, but I literally record myself driving to work.
I love it, man.
Just talk. It's I don't know how it is, on the other side, but I love it. I have fun doing it. And I was talking about you on one of them because we had a conversation a few weeks ago, and you're like the person in my life that I'm like, wow, if I could have just done what he did, and we were having a conversation, and you were, I forget exactly how it went, but it was basically like you were thinking about your next thing and your next thing. And I was like, as you were talking, I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like it sort of like landed on a different part of my brain as you were saying it. I'm like, why would he be thinking about the next thing? He's already like reached so much success, but like it doesn't for you. You're still like my next thing, and it sort of blew my mind, and it gave me a different perspective. Like, wow, it doesn't matter where you get to in life, you're always going to be thinking about that next thing.
Oh yeah.
I remember talking about that on one of the Ride with Rusties.
I love it, man. I love it. Let's go, man. Let's go. Yeah, no, man. I don't know. You call it ADHD, the PTSD from the military. I don't know, right? But I love the journey, right? Early on in life, I'm sure you're probably the same way, right? It's a little bit of was proving people wrong, right? Because I think it's easy to get around people who may not have as much faith as you, right?
Yeah.
And so a little bit is proving people wrong, but at the same time, and honestly, for a lot of people don't know the audience, right? I did like 2.5, 3 years at McKinsey. They're like, how was it? I say it was phenomenal, right? And they're like, oh man, I heard yeah, you heard the stories, they're true, they're fake. I don't really care, but I went there for a reason. I learned it. Now it's what's my next chapter in life, right? And and so that's why I'm always looking like that next adventure, the next thing I can learn, right? I love, if I could show over here, man, I got like a book for everything, and got the notepad sitting at the desk, and legal pad right here, right? It's for me, man. I love the journey, man. Honestly, right? And there's always goals there and all that stuff, but getting to where I got to now, the journey of the people, the things I've learned, and where I've gotten to is just, I loved it, man. And so I said, okay, what's next? Like, how do I take all this and put it together, right? And like yourself, man, I'm kind of kicking off my initial podcast, and I keep mine 10 minutes, right? It's prescriptive, mental for now, so you can listen to it on your ride, or you can listen to it, when you just got a couple minutes. And I hope to give you just that little bit of that mentor that's like, I need, just to say, you know what, that helps me out, helps, turn the light on, and then, kind of go from there, man.
Oh God, I didn't know about you starting your podcast until we spoke a couple of days ago, and dude, I'm so glad you're doing that, because I swear you are one of those people that this sounds like maybe kind of weird, but you have like a space in my brain where I'm like, what would Royale do? Like,
I don't do that.
like what would it, what, or I think about what you've done and I'm
Yeah.
like, how can I be a little bit more like Royale?
Man, I'm trying to
And
get like you, man. I'm trying to get like you.
so I'm
Trying
really
to get.
glad you're doing a podcast because
Yeah.
I'll definitely be tuning in because you're my guy anyways that I go to for that kind of advice and that kind of like inspiration, motivation stuff. And so, man, I can't wait. I can't wait to
Yeah.
listen to
Yeah.
it.
Now, man. Yeah. I think, man. I noticed on a head hawking on the fly, man. We probably got to do this like once a month, man. Just pick a topic. Let's just, we each every other month, right? We just sit down here and have the conversation, man. I think when people hear, all your story, man, from the Air Force, doing some really cool stuff, man, and just, I think starting running business, seeing it from both sides, you ran your own, your wife ran hers, right? And I think like that mentorship, the insights you can give, man, it'll probably just be phenomenal, man. I'm mad because I wasted all this time like talking about AI. I'm like, no, we should be rusty. You know what I
No,
mean?
dude, I'm all about it, man. Dude, monthly would be amazing. It really would. Oh, I don't. Let me know, dude, if you need to run. I don't want to. I could talk till tonight. So if you're,
Yeah.
you tell me.
Yeah, let me go, man.
Yeah,
Need to drop. But we definitely have to connect, man. I think this makes 110. I love what you're doing here, man. I think the conversations have to be had, right? It has to be people like us who are still trying to figure it out and really trying to say, okay, what is this AI thing? How we doing agentic AI? How we got to where we are. What are those life lessons? I think that's what needs to be out there and not some of the nonsense.
yeah. No, dude, I love it, and dude, and thank you so much for your time, man. I'm gonna kill this. Just make sure it uploads on your end. And then you can log off. And dude, thank you so much. And yeah, monthly would be amazing. You let me know, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it, man. I gotta go pick up in the Tesla anyway.
Yes, dude, I can't. Dude, we're gonna go party in your Tesla.
Drive us home, man. Let's go. Let's go.
Awesome. All right, man. We'll take care. All right.
You also, brother. Take care of yourself.
All right. Thanks.